Hey guys, my name is Heron,
And I'm Gigas.
and this is going to be a little bit of a different, I guess, sort of experiment. We had been talking about doing a podcast type thing for a little while now, and this is going to be our attempt at it.
Yeah, so essentially what we're calling this new podcast of ours is called Campfire's Embers. And it's essentially like kind of like a name off of our our Twitch channel and YouTube channel, Embers Corner.
Yeah, that guy's going to be kind of like our main thing. Is Embers Corner, but since this is just another leg of that, we're calling it a different thing entirely. And eventually, we do hope to make a music channel, and we're going to be doing the same thing.
Yeah, so essentially what this is going to be is like just kind of talking with you guys and like kind of like sharing a little bit more about us in a way like outside of what we would typically share through our streams.
Exactly, and like this is going to be like talking about like life scenarios, for example, certain things that happened in high school, different concerts we did, because me and him are both musicians, and so we have a lot of stories to tell from our experiences with doing theater and choir, orchestra, and my experiences with band, and our experiences with sports, our experiences with everything. But that's neither here nor there, because today we're going to be talking about, it's the title of this stream. We're calling it Origins for a very specific reason. We're going to be starting off with how we met.
Exactly, like how we met, kind of vaguely a little bit about our experiences. Like, of course, we're going to get more into that like in later podcasts. And then kind of like how we've decided to
I guess pursue this industry.
Start doing this, how like as a partnership and stuff like that. So
yeah, I mean, because I'm talking about this like this is like a movie or a TV show, but canonically, our friendship didn't reach the peak of best friend until about sophomore year. So
yeah, so I guess I should start this by explaining like how we first initially met.
Yeah, so this is not exactly an entertaining story by any means, but it's
kind of a funny one to start off.
It is pretty funny. So I guess we're gonna rewind time here a little bit to middle school.
Yeah, roughly about seven years ago.
Yeah, well, yeah, we're coming up on it. Let's see, what is it? It's I'm trying to think, because it's 2020. It's 2023 now. So that was we graduated in 22. And so that was 4 years before that. We started high school in 2018, and it would have been 2 years before that.
So about 2016.
So yeah, like beginning of school 2016 is when we initially met. And it was about as informal as you could possibly get.
Yeah, like it was probably more so like, oh, this guy's a little weird. I probably shouldn't talk to him.
Ergo, this was my internal monologue for this guy because of how he entered orchestra class on day one.
Yeah, so I come from like years of homeschooling, and this was kind of like my first year ever like coming back into like a public school, like in middle school. Go figure, like drop straight into the middle of middle school, like not having any friends or anything like that.
And the thing is too, like apparently at least the consensus that I have at like my job and a lot of our friends in high school was about the same. The worst year of high school being 7th grade. So, yeah, the worst year of middle school. All
right, so pretty much what happens is it's like later in the day, first day, like not knowing where the heck I'm going.
Yeah, poor guy didn't even get a tour of the campus.
Yeah, I didn't get a tour anywhere. So I'm told I'm supposed to go to this little bitty, almost like a trailer. Like
this thing is a glorified shed. That's what this thing is.
Yeah, and so I'm trying to figure out where the heck I'm going. It takes me like 10-15 minutes before somebody, like a teacher, comes out and was like, "Are you lost?" And I'm like, "Yes. Can you please tell me where the heck I'm going?" And so this person like directs me to this little shed, walk up the ramp. I am so embarrassed. Like I walk in, like everyone's playing their instruments, getting to know their stuff. And I'm just here like, Hi.
Like not really knowing how to present himself whatsoever. And the funny thing too is I was leading the cellos at this point. This was an orchestra class if that wasn't clear. And so I'm leading the cellos at this point. So I'm like right next to the teacher, and I look behind me. I just see this slender looking dude confused out of his mind.
Yeah, so I didn't have an instrument at that time, and I didn't really know much about orchestra. So our orchestra teacher at the time, she was just kind of like, all we have is violins or a bass, which is like this giant thing. And all I ask is just like, do you guys have a piano? Because like at the time, the only instrument I played and was taking lessons on was piano. And before like going into middle school and stuff like that, I had a choice of joining either orchestra or band, and I was under the impression of a piano being a string instrument, which it is.
It technically is.
Yeah, or percussion.
I mean,
because it's hammers.
So the bass is, I guess, if you guys don't know how a piano works, essentially what it is it's this big old well, I mean, you all seen a piano, hopefully. But inside of it, the whole reason why you raise the lid of it is because it's based around these, I guess these mallets called, we call them hammers, that are tied to each of the keys. And each of those hammers hit the string at, depending on how hard you hit the keys. Ergo, if you want it louder or softer, that's how you control the volume of it.
Exactly. So I essentially was under the impression, oh, it's a string instrument. Orchestras play string instruments. That's what it is. So I literally ask, do you guys have a piano? And everyone just kind of looks at me like I'm stupid.
Like, what is this guy? What?
Yeah.
That was pretty much my reaction. It's like,
and they're just like, no.
I mean, we do, but yeah. So the teacher was basically just like, I mean, we do, but you're not gonna play that.
Yeah, so I was essentially just given the choice, violin or bass, and I didn't want to have to like lug around this giant heavy instrument, so I took violin. And just like that, he begins his suffering of 7th grade. Yeah, like I was horrible at it. Like nobody taught me how to play this thing. The orchestra teacher never helped me because she was essentially a flute player. She did not really like play.
Yeah, she didn't even do like I don't even think she touched a violin or a cello until probably college.
Yeah, and I remember like halfway through 7th grade, our teacher like left for China to go visit her family. So we had like a sub like the entire like half of our,
for at least like the first semester, we had just a sub. Thankfully it was like one of the best like local musicians like out there. So
yeah, so, and that was like how I kind of learned how to play the violin essentially.
Yeah, and I mean I learned a lot more about cello and just how music worked that year, or at least that semester. I mean, he was, oh dude, the guy was a godsend. Like he helped so much, just taking that under his wing. And he didn't have to do that. He was a very busy man.
Yeah. And so that's essentially like how we were informally met.
Yep, I saw this random dude thinking he could play a piano and orchestra, thinking he was the biggest idiot on planet Earth, and then I didn't talk to him for the rest of the year.
Well, that's not exactly true, because we had a mutual friend who like we both knew, and like kind of like we knew each other around. Like we talked between this mutual friend, but like in person we didn't really talk much, but we knew of each other.
We maybe traded words like maybe twice that entire year.
Yeah. And so through that entire thing, I think it was halfway through 7th grade that I left.
Yeah, because you went to go to the other middle school.
Yeah. So I ended up transferring middle schools, and that's essentially where like I learned how to play orchestra. Or like the violin. Yes, or I learned how to play orchestra. I learned how to play the violin, and it was my teacher at the time pretty much introduced me to this girl, and essentially was just like, okay, well, I'm gonna take you outside and going to teach you like
All of the basics,
everything
yeah.
I know. And it took like so long before I even got remotely good. And like, what the ironic thing is like 8th grade year, I ended up having to teach a new person who didn't know how to play the violin, and I ended up being like first violin.
Give
in
and
middle
take,
school.
man. That's how it be. And just to give you guys a little bit of a insight towards the reason why I was having this reaction, to the reason I had the reaction that I did to Guy, I guess, when he walked in, was because I had started playing the cello straight from the get-go, from the beginning of 6th grade, and I continued to play cello all the way through senior year of high school.
Yeah.
And I haven't touched it in a couple of years, and it's mainly just because I haven't owned one, but
Yeah,
I could
so-
probably still belt out a tune on it.
Yeah, so I'll definitely get more into that later on, but essentially, like, fast forward like 2-3 years.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like during this time frame we didn't see each other. We both did track and field and wrestling. So we saw each other at meets and competitions and like duels and triangulars for those. And we saw each other as well in 8th grade for the original middle school's annual 5K. So and again, that was through our mutual friend and whatnot. So
Yeah, so that was essentially like little bits and pieces, and we kind of like got to know each other a little bit more, like especially in
Yeah.
track and field. Like that's definitely like I noticed you and was like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while.
I mean, hey, dude, to be fair, who didn't notice me 8th grade
yeah,
track?
you were very like short haired. You were like super muscular at that time.
It's true. Okay, to be fair, like that, I still stand by this. That is the best shape I've been in my entire life, because in between 7th grade and the beginning of high school, like after 7th grade track, I trained every day over the summer, and then I did basketball. And then I did wrestling directly after that, and then it went immediately into track and field. So I had like super short, like it was still pretty bushy hair, but it was a lot shorter than it was when we originally met.
Yeah.
And yeah, I put on a lot of muscle for it too, because like I mean I worked at it and I was eating really well at that time. I was doing great. So we definitely had at least 2 more conversations during 8th grade track. But the reason why I say it was kind of hard to not notice me was because even back then, the main coaches we had for the original middle school's track team was there were 4 in total. We had a main sprint coach, a jump coach, a throw coach, and a distance coach. And above all of that, I still ended up kind of being team captain 8th grade year, just because of how well I could get people to do their stuff.
Yeah.
Like the funny thing too was I think I earned the nickname. I was labeled as coach. Like people started calling me coach around the track team. It was kind of hilarious.
Yeah. Hello, person. Welcome to our new podcast. So we're essentially streaming on Twitch, twitch.tv at Embers Corner for those who are kind of viewing around. And we're just kind of like, as I said, like at the beginning of the stream, we're kind of introducing ourselves and
Exactly.
like how we kind of met each other.
Yeah. So this is just like more of a formal way of saying, hey, this is how Embers Corner became a thing. And we're starting off. The reason why we're titling the stream Origins is because we are in the middle of how we became best friends.
Yeah. So that's kind of like the last, getting back into what we were saying. Like,
Yeah.
that was kind of like the last time that we kind of saw each other at that point.
Was 8th grade track and field, because throughout freshman year I didn't see you whatsoever, because you were at a different high school at this point.
Yeah, and it wasn't until sophomore year that I kind of transferred into this your high school
Yeah,
essentially.
the high school I went into, and it's that was a lot of firsts for me that year, and I look back and I still like, ooh,
It wasn't a great year.
Dude, man, sophomore year was rough for me on a lot of different levels.
Yeah.
The first one being that was the year that me and my girlfriend at the time were having a lot of communication issues, and it just kept putting pressure on each other for everything that we were doing. She was working so hard, and I look back at this now, like I was a jerk to her and everyone around her and everyone around me, just because I was so mad that I couldn't spend time with her.
Yeah, that's probably more of a story that we can get into later on.
Oh yeah, no, that's whew, if you want to talk about emotional damage, man, yeah, that's a story for another time. But
yeah, so it was essentially like the first day of sophomore year, like our first ever class for like was orchestra. Go figure.
Go figure. We re-meet in orchestra about 2 years, or 2 years later. Oh, 3 years later, actually.
Yeah, so at this point, I actually like did not suck as playing the violin. Like had about like 3 years up until this point, like actually playing.
Yeah,
so,
I still had about a year on him, but even then, like.
Yeah, so we played in different like sides of the group.
Yeah, so
and
back at our high school had it had an auditorium, right? And that the interesting thing is because of the layout of the high school we went to, orchestra didn't have a classroom. The orchestra teacher split the time frame of use of the auditorium with the drama teacher.
Yeah, so we didn't have a classroom. It was a stage.
Exactly. We were on stage, and honestly, props to our orchestra director for making that call, because I honestly think it ended up making us better musicians.
Yeah.
Practicing on a stage every day.
Yeah, so essentially like the first day, like we start and like getting to like kind of like showing the
like.
Yeah. Essentially, we were trying to show like what the orchestra teacher, like what our potentials was, and like what
we were being tested,
what we're capable
of. We were very much just getting our bearings towards who was going to be in what chair for the first concert, because how the high school calendar worked for orchestra was we had about probably about what, like 3.5 weeks until the preview concert, which had one song from each group of each section of the music department.
Yeah.
So that was like, it had the symphony band, it had the jazz band, it had all of the choirs, it had each of the orchestras, and all that stuff. So that's essentially all that happened with it.
Yeah. So I kind of walk in, and I think you already like had yourself set up.
Honestly, I probably did.
And I just like, I look at this guy, and I'm like, this guy looks familiar. Like I feel like I've seen this guy before.
At this point, I probably started carrying myself with a pretty arrogant like aroma around myself, because like I was already setting up, like before we even got casted in our seats and everything. I full on went up and got chair one for cellos.
Well, like but like you had short hair at that time.
It's true.
And so sophomore year, you had like super long hair, and so you also had like facial hair. Like I don't know if you had like a full beard at that time. No,
at this point I probably had I at least had a chin strap and a good chunk of a mustache.
Yeah, so it was very like, I feel like I know this person,
but he looks so different if he is the same guy.
Yeah. So it was around like 30 minutes into class, and we like went outside to like take a break.
Yeah.
And I see this guy, and I'm like, Dom?
And I'm just like, you're that Sean guy, right?
And I was like, yeah, I'm that guy.
And I was just like, oh man, I haven't seen you in, oh shoot, what has it been, like 3 years?
Yeah. And we kind of talked a little bit about each other, like kind of catching up, because like, again, like we knew of each other.
Yeah,
like,
and at this point, our mutual friend was doing their own thing at this point.
Yeah.
Like, we still saw each other a good chunk of time. Like, freshman year, our mutual friend was really the only guy I talked to for a good chunk, at least until I met my girlfriend.
Well, I actually lived in the general area, but I was going to a different high school at that time, and I lived like 5 minutes walking distance, so I would hang out with that guy like all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we talked with each other and like kind of like became like reestablished our friendship there.
I wouldn't even say reestablished because we didn't have we really didn't have a friendship before high school, just because we didn't hang out at all. Like, we tolerated each other's existence, but I think that's about as far as it went.
Yeah, but like we kind of like solidified like our friendship, and
yeah, it definitely became one of those things where I looked forward to seeing him.
Yeah, and then after that, it was like the last period of the day, and
go figure, this is the first year I decide, hey, I'm gonna try out choir.
Yeah, and me, actually, I have a year on you.
You do have a year on me about
I started my freshman year, and once again, like, new guy in this this men's choir, like, everyone knows these people, and they're like, I'm just like sitting here just like, oh, hey, I know you.
Yeah.
What brings you here?
I'm just like, I'm doing choir, man.
Yeah.
So, and then we just went through first day stuff. Like, our choir director was getting us, well, I mean, the process is called getting sung. Effectively, you go through and you try to match pitch with as many notes on the piano as you can, confidently, and then that establishes your range, and that's the section you get put into for choir.
Yeah, so I think all of us like had like seats like sitting all in like a semicircle.
So it wasn't even the semicircle yet. This was back when it was very, very much like shared pews. This was before the semicircle like thing was even a thing. So it was just like stacks of rows. It looked like a glorified college classroom because of but it didn't like go high or low. We just had like these stands set up without any angular panels. So it was just these 3 rows of, oh man, this was the biggest men's choir we had throughout all of high school. So we probably had like, what, 30 guys?
Yeah.
All trying to figure out how to do this, because 90% of them were new to choir.
Yeah. So it was essentially like, I think we sat by each other like somewhat.
Definitely initially.
Yeah, because you were the only person that I essentially knew, because I met this other guy. I won't mention his name because like just for like his own privacy's sake, but like he was like a really well known.
Yeah, we'll call him.
Well,
we'll call him Ben.
Yeah, we'll name him Ben. He was like a really known tenor. He was like a redhead, and like as soon as the guy walks in, everyone's like, Ben!
Definitely. And it's like, oh man, my high school, all of the guys that I don't even know how this happened, but like a good chunk of the guys that were at my high school freshman year just somehow cordially developed relationships with each other, and eventually all of us came across the exact same synapse being fired. We're gonna join choir that next year.
Yeah, so I essentially like got to know this guy, like sat by him, he like taught me everything, like, and really like helped kind of like further increase the knowledge of like what choir is, because I got tested as a tenor. I'm a tenor, and then you got tested as a baritone?
Yeah, at this point I was singing baritone, and I was a very confident baritone too. Like, yeah. I think as far as like carrying goes, the baritones were very much me and one other guy, at least starting out.
Yeah, so we essentially like just like hung out like pretty much every day since then.
Yeah, because we saw each other on a constant basis from that point.
Yeah, especially since like I transitioned between like a tenor two and a baritone. Between that, like, so we essentially like sat next to each other and like knew each other between several different classes.
Yeah, because I think the only 2 classes we shared with each other at that point were orchestra and choir. But later down the line, like junior year and senior year, we ended up having like basically every class with each other.
Well, yeah, like even towards later, like towards sophomore year, we were just like, because there was an advanced choir at that point, and we were like, dude, this is something I really want to do and strive for.
Exactly. Like we both oh man, like I said, I was at a pretty dang dark place sophomore year, and me and the other guy that were kind of leading the baritones, we unfortunately didn't have the best chemistry that year. Just because, to be fair, and I 100% understand why he told me this senior year, he didn't like me at all.
Yeah.
And to be fair, like when I say I was a jerk, I mean I was. Oh, there is no better way to say this. I was the biggest asshole in probably the performing arts department.
Oh wait, I don't. I forgot. Like, this was after, because this was after we were talking about, like, shortly after COVID happened.
Yeah. So to date this a little bit, we were both sophomores. Our sophomore year was interrupted by COVID because of, well, I mean, it started really becoming a thing throughout spring break of that year. And I mean, a lot of, I personally like to refer to it as the spring break that never ended, because I mean, it never did.
Because this essentially, like, happened, like, we were trying to, like, get ready for auditions for this advanced choir shortly before spring break happened.
Exactly. And like I think exactly how it went around was the fact that we had the templates, and we had all of the links on Google Classroom and everything for all of the audition stuff to start prepping, and then we were going to audition for it live like that next week after spring break.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden we have to get quarantined. So
yeah, so that's a little bit of a tangent. Going back to exactly how we so we at this point, still at the beginning of the year, we are seeing each other on a constant basis at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day.
Yeah, so like we at that point, like, we exchanged each other's numbers. Like, we were still talking and hanging out, like, and talking to each other.
We were texting, like, probably on a pretty constant basis at this point.
Yeah.
And I think the only person that I was talking more with at that time was my girlfriend. And I will say this right now, that will be, if we want to unpack all of that, that is going to take about an hour. Yeah. So we're just gonna
yeah, we'll get further into, like, music stuff later on.
Yeah, exactly. And because there's
so many experiences that we have yet to share.
So many stories that we can tell you about our time at our high school and through music. But that's essentially how we became friends. I think the defining moment of us being best friends was the annual winter concert for choir, because at this point we hadn't really seen a whole lot of the advanced choir. We had maybe seen them once because of we had seen them twice because of the preview concert and because of the fall choir concert. Mm-hmm. But the advanced choir did this thing every year. They essentially did they became a show choir for a little bit. Mm-hmm. And they put on a whole Christmas like compilation of songs that flowed into each other, all with choreography and everything. It was a big old performance, and it was right smack in the middle of this of our winter concert, because this wasn't your average winter concert. How our high school did it was the main fundraiser for the year. So this was a huge event. We booked out a church for 3 performances, and we were serving desserts, hot beverages, and there was a constant overarching theme for all of the songs and all of the choirs performing it. So all of the choirs were on different risers, all encompassing this big old room.
I believe we had a orchestra concert that day too.
Yeah, we did, because I remember this.
Because you ended up giving me a ride along with a female friend of ours.
Exactly.
and we ended up, like, all, like, carpooling together. Yeah, and, like, had to rush.
Yeah, so at day one, this was so day one of the concert, because it spawned over 2 days. We had an evening performance the first day, and then we had a early afternoon performance or a matinee performance, and then we had the final performance that night. What happened is there was a cross scheduling conflict with the orchestra winter concert that year as well. So as soon as we got done with what we were playing in the orchestra concert, all three of us booked it out to my mom in her truck, and we just hauled ass across across the like the main area, because the main area we're living in right now, and at least I grew up in, is housed by about 4 different cities, and so just to give you a little bit of idea, we have to go to a town and a half to get to this church. So we end up missing like the entire first half of the performance.
Yeah.
And we walk in, honestly, we walk in right as they're about to go on their break, because this concert was probably like 4 hours long.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very, very big event. And so we go in. We we even have a photo actually of the three of us before them, because we couldn't walk in. They were performing.
Yeah.
So,
and I also remember, like, once we were done, I think it was, I don't remember if it was the third night that we did it, but like I remember we stayed until like 1 o'clock in the morning, moving this giant piano back to like the altar.
Yeah, it was after the main performance, because that was where we met.
I think it was the third night.
Yeah, because that was where we met. I guess I shouldn't really say this. That was because we both know this guy for a little while now, and but it was it was me, Sean, and one other guy that were like the main people moving this gigantic grand piano. And I still remember this very vividly, because our choir director was so terrified that we were gonna like break it.
Yeah.
And but we showed him that we knew what we were doing around a set, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And we would go on to do, like, he would go on to stress us with so many more pieces of equipment.
Yeah.
But the whole reason why we're bringing this up is because this guy, this other guy that we're talking about was, oh man, he was probably like the popular guy for our class. Like, everybody knew him. All of the girls were crazy about him, you know, like,
yeah.
And honestly, the guy deserved it. He was a great guy to hang out with, and everything.
Yeah. So instead of going further on a tangent,
Yeah.
Let's
I guess
and post COVID, so
Yeah.
I guess you essentially get your license at this point.
Oh shoot! No, okay. We're skipping a very, very big thing here.
But that's still junior year at this point.
Yeah. So
once we're actually like no longer in quarantine at this point.
Yeah. So this all to say, the whole reason why I was saying like the defining moment of this guy was my best friend was still at this winter concert. And this was before, this was still that main, it was still that first night. So we get there after the break happens, and the opener for the second half of the show was the advanced choir's show compilation and everything like that. So because this was pretty lengthy, this was probably about a 12, maybe 13-minute long number, if you will. Mm-hmm. That was a combination of about, I think, maybe 6 different songs. And like I said, it had choreography and everything. To give the rest of the choir a break during this, we all sat down. All of the other spotlights were turned off, and it was just all focus on this main stage. Both, honestly, me and Sean had pretty much the exact same thought process as we were reviewing this. Like, this is top tier. This is how you know you are a good musician at this school.
Yeah. And
so we're just like, after the concert, while we're moving the piano, we both discuss, and we even talk on the way home, because I ended up giving him a ride home after the at the end of the last night of the show, or the last night of the concert was, we even talked about it. It's just like, dude, I don't know about you, but I want to do what they did.
Yeah.
So we fast forward. We're going through COVID. We both end up auditioning for the advanced choir. We both make it, which was astounding in itself.
Yeah.
I shouldn't really say that, because I mean, I know now that I did, and I knew I could sing even before I went into choir. It was just more along the lines of I didn't know how well I could professionally sing.
Yeah.
And when we made that, it just oh man, it boosted our egos so much in a good way, because ultimately it made us carry through the depressing, the very, very depressing era that was junior year. Uh,
Yeah.
because this was when COVID was still in very, very high demand, and we just recently got out of main quarantine. So this was when everybody had vaccinations going in and out. This is when
Everyone started to wear masks.
everyone
and
had to
stuff.
wear masks. Oh man, our high school was, so our main high school was kind of shaped like a baseball diamond. We had the music and I guess we had like a main hall going to first base, and then that next hall was the main social studies hall, and then we had at I guess where second base would be, that was the senior lounge, and then the third hall was the math hallway, and then the fourth hall was the science hallway. And then we had a separate building to the west of campus, that it was literally just called the West Building, and we had that was where like the our English and literary classes were, and our foreign language classes. The only two that our high school taught was French and Spanish, though.
Yeah.
And so to give you an idea, so and then last thing, between home plate and second base, there was this big hallway that was bigger than all of the other ones, and we called that Dog Run, because our mascot was the Bulldogs. So and because of this, we had traffic flowing in in an anti-clockwise way throughout the main four hallways, and the main hallways split into two traffic patterns. You had going towards second base on the right hand side of the hall, and going back to like the main lobby and the offices, that flowing the other direction. And traffic was a very, very big thing, because there was no going backwards, because the whole reason for these traffic systems was to inhibit contact and keeping people 5 feet apart, which was the regulation that we had to follow. And then we had teachers were forced to keep 2 bottles of hand sanitizer in their rooms, and the first one you had to splash on while you were going into class, and then you had to rub your hands together. And then at the end of every class, you had a disinfectant wipe. They had to wipe your table. You had to wipe your desk and your chair down. And then when we exited, we had to get another thing of hand sanitizer. And then the next class, we would have to do that all over again.
Yeah.
So it. That was, I mean, oh man. And keep in mind, we still only had 5-minute passing periods.
Yeah.
So if you missed your if you missed your exit, you had to go all the way around campus to get back to it.
Yeah.
It was so bad, but it was necessary.
Yeah, I remember us having like a lot of classes together in our junior year as well. Like we had English, we still had orchestra and choir, and then kind of had to sacrifice our lunches for our advanced choir.
Yeah, so that's how at our high school, so purely you still got credits for this course, but there was not enough hours in the day to have a whole advanced choir at another point that wouldn't cause too many problems. So when we say advanced choir, we're talking like chamber and show choir and jazz choir, like the really, really difficult styles of vocal stuff that people who are very, very serious about music are very, very good at and start practicing very early on. And so that was mainly what it was. And like Sean said, we had to give up our lunches and our I guess our break time in the middle of the day to have these classes. And so how did that work during COVID, you might ask? It was we experimented with a couple of different ways of doing it.
Yeah, it was very difficult to try and sing through a mask.
Yeah, that was another thing we had to do. Was I will say though, I'm very thankful we had to sing through a mask that year, because it built up our lung capacity so well for senior year.
Yeah, leading into senior year, that was an experience.
Oh yeah, because
we practically devoted our entire like senior year into choir. Like,
yeah, and I
we
mean,
were living and breathing
in choir, and then I was still split focused with orchestra, and because at this point I'm like main student rep for both the choral program and the orchestral program. So if you're in the music department at our high school, at this point, you know very well who I am.
Yeah. We ended up going, we ended up traveling a lot.
Yeah,
like being like accepted into a bunch of things.
Yeah, we ended up being core members of our state's all-state choir. We ended up going on our first, me and Sean's first flights out to Arkansas for a different choral convention that our state was a part of, and then we had like I said, that was our very first flight ever. So I got to share my first flight ever with this dude.
Yeah.
And as soon as we did that. About a month before any of that happened, we went out to another town that was about an hour away by bus to perform for another another contest out there. So our choirs were very, very big, and we did a lot of
that choir we ended up like getting to stay in like a 5-star hotel.
Yeah,
that was crazy.
Yeah, the beginning of 2022, our graduating year, we did we had so many things back to back to back. We had so we kicked off by doing that that 5-star hotel one which was really cool because it was about a 5.5 hour bus ride up, and then we got about an hour to chill and get checked into our rooms and hang out and explore the campus of the resort we were performing at. And when I say resort, this place was beautiful. Like, it was split between two areas of a lake, and there was this gigantic bridge that was flowing through it, and then all of the buildings were probably about 4 or 5 stories tall.
Yeah.
Like, it felt like we were on a mansion property. Like, it was so freaking cool. And yeah, we actually got to stay a night at the 5-star hotel, and then performed at the conference the next day. So that was really cool. And then as soon as we got back from that, we had a week until no, I'm confusing this. We had Allstate a week before that, and then as soon as we got back from that next week was the school musical, which I was a pretty big part of. I was one of the main supporting actors. So, and I was also the understudy for the male lead. So all of this is happening, and while Allstate and that 5-star hotel thing were happening, I'm cramming lines, trying to get all this stuff memorized, because I only have a week or 2 weeks at this point while I'm still enjoying these experiences. And then that's not even the half of it, because after we got done with the musical, that next week we had our school's they call it solo and ensemble, where you performed in front of a judge, either a solo, a duet, a trio, a quartet, a quintet. I think you could go up to an octet. So you basically performed a piece of music, and then you got graded on a 5-point scale, 1 being the highest and 5 being the lowest. And at that point, me and Sean decided to do this was our second year of doing a solo and a duet. In that, and the funny thing too was junior year we even did solo and ensemble with through orchestra, and we did a duet through that, which that
did not go well.
No, not at all. I think we realized just how little we actually understood about our instruments that year, which was kind of a very, very big eye opener. But that was like, oh man, and even just within those experiences, we could tell you so many stories.
Yeah.
For all of it. Like, senior year in itself, we could probably make 20 different podcast videos about it.
Which I guess is like kind of now time to like kind of explain like how we decided like we want to do a podcast. We want to do like a streaming YouTube channel together.
Yeah, so we never I mean, we had always dreamed about being YouTubers and streamers, just because we I mean, at this point Twitch has been around for, oh man, I don't even know how long, but and then we were born a year before YouTube went live. So these things have existed our entire lives. And we grew up with so many big big influencers like Jacksepticeye, Markiplier, and various other things, just inspiring us with so many different things, and we were just like, that would be so freaking cool to do. But
so yeah, like essentially how we started, like how we decided on we should do a podcast, essentially it was our senior year Allstate.
No. we got so.
Oh no, it was
yeah.
it was
It was junior year in English because what happened was we never even this never even crossed our minds, but because of how much we had to discuss different literature pieces that we were researching in our class, a lot of the things we were talking about. The unfortunate thing is me and Sean have very well, at least we're very loud when we get passionate about stuff, and it doesn't exactly always register how loud we're being, but the thing is, a lot of people really didn't mind that we were being loud in literacy.
No.
Because even our teacher was kind of, what's the right word? I guess entertained by us because of how well we were bouncing off of each other.
Yeah, there was times where we would just talk for a long period of time, just with whatever, and it turned out to be the fact, like, people would just start listening to us.
Yeah, like we were not told by anything to, I guess, we were not told by our teacher, hey, you guys discuss this in front of the class or anything like that. We just naturally did with our partners, and it just kept going well and well and well. And then eventually it got to the point where me and Sean were bouncing off of each other with ideas, and our teacher was just like, dude, y'all need to start a podcast or something.
Yeah.
And so that was our first, like, ding, hey, that there might be something there. But we didn't decide that we were going to do this until we were coming back from senior year All-State.
Yeah, and it was like a 5-6 hour drive back from where we initially went for All-State. And we started talking about gosh, I can't remember exactly what we were talking about. We were just starting talking about like a bunch of stuff.
I guess we can go into a little bit more detail about this because on our way home, so to All-State and coming back from All-State, transportation was divided between two vehicles. We had, and this was like, when I said the area that we're living is made up of about 4.5 cities, all of the major the 4 main high schools were all coupled together to go on the choir All-State trip for all the people that made it. And the majority of the people that were going to All-State were on a bus, but we had a couple of stragglers. We had about 6 of us in total, me and Sean being 2 of them, 3 of them being from another school, and another one was our buddy from our school that made it. And in total, I think 7 of us made it from our high school.
From our high school, it was a total of...
Pretty sure it was 7 because we had...
let me think. I think it was a total of 5.
No.
We had
5 guys.
Yeah, 5 guys and then 2 females.
Yeah, 2 girls that made. So yeah, total of 7. But that's neither here nor there. So going there, we were in this van with the 3 people's choir director in passenger and them in the back seat, us 3 from our high school in the middle seat, and then our choir director actually driving the van. So going there, we had enough of the main, because All-State was split into 3 separate choirs. We had the tenor bass choir, the mixed choir, and then the treble choir. And all of the guys that were in the van, because there were the 5 of us, because there were 6 of us in the van, but 6 students in the van, and 5 of them were guys, and all of us ended up being in the tenor bass section.
Yeah, because it was like there was like 2 guys from like different high schools joining us at that point.
So those 2 were from the same high school.
No,
yeah.
So in the van there was two of our classmates, but when we...
You're remembering this very, very wrong. Remember, there were 3 people. So the van was split up into 2 seats, right? We had you, me, and our buddy from our high school, and then we had the 3 people from one of the other schools.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
But none of them... Yeah. Sorry, it sounded like you were saying, like, 2 of these guys... Like, one guy was from another school, the other guy was from another school, and the girl in the middle of one was also from another school. No. These 3 were from a different... we're all from the same school.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah. Sorry, it was coming off like that, so I was just like, no. But, but on the way there, we were just very, very focused, and we had all of the sections for all of the music, for all of the voice section, for all of the music in the tenor bass choir. So the entire time we were going up there, we were very much core ridden on practicing our stuff, because how All-State worked in the state we were in was you had to send an audition tape, which had a about a 2-minute solo song. You had to identify pitch intervals, and you had to do sight reading for both rhythm and melody. So that was all like phase one of the main audition. It was practice for that, and then you went in and you performed all of that stuff for a judge. But the thing is, even if you got selected from that, there was a second audition you had to do when you got there to the location of Allstate.
Which I will never forget how absolutely terrifying that was.
That was, dude, it felt like, because the staging area they had for us was in one of their many auditoriums. I think the campus maybe had like 4 or 5 different auditoriums.
Yeah.
And the first one was all of us. So when we first got in there, we signed in and we all got a tag with a number on it. And from there, we had to memorize our number because it got peeled off of us as soon as we made it or if we got cut. As soon as we had our number, we sat down and we were just like mentally prepping for it, talking with all the guys that we went on the bus and the van with, talking about it. So all of the guys that were in the tenor bass choir from our school all sat in the same row, and we were all just prepping like, okay, what do we need to work on? What do we need to do here? Because what happened was they called certain numbers like they were being chosen for the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
It was the most terrified I have been in my entire life.
Yeah, like it wasn't just us. It was like everyone who was like waiting for their number. Like all of us were just terrified because it was like for example, it was like 1, 2,
5,
34,
17.
56, 78.
It was very much like it was not going by numerical value here. It was going all around like sections of different schools coming around the state for these, and so your number could have been called at any point. You had no idea how long you had until you had to go do your second audition.
Yeah. I just remember like even like we had like a freaking choir prodigy. Like the guy was like amazing with singing, and even the guy like was terrified.
Oh yeah, like that the guy that we're talking about was the third guy from our school in the van. And like we're not even exaggerating when we say this dude was so talented when it came to singing.
So like even having the guy like terrified made us terrified.
It just made it worse for us. Yeah.
Yeah, so
yeah,
like once we actually did the audition, it was kind of just like...
It was... The funniest thing was because we had prepped so hard for this, it was the easiest thing we have ever done in our entire singing careers.
Yeah, I remember... Because I believe we had the same guy that auditioned the two of us.
Yeah, we did, because I remember as soon as I got out, I saw you lined up in the wall with like 4 other guys, and you were just being casted and like thrown into other offices, like soundproofed offices with a judge and a highlighted section of whatever song that you had to sing. So you needed to have every measure of every song on the set list memorized and like proud and like ironed out perfectly.
Yeah,
for
so
this.
I just remember like whenever it was my turn, because I did mine before yours.
Mm-hmm.
The judge was just like, okay, can you pull out this thing? I need you to sing this measure. And then I was like, okay, immediately start singing this. It was like, oh, do you have like, I forget what it's called, like perfect pitch or whatever? Because I just
Honestly,
like automatically sang it.
Yeah, at this point, man, I'm like 100% certain that you do have perfect pitch with how many times you've done stuff like that. But I had a very, very similar experience. But mine was kind of funny because when I went in to do my audition, I don't even have like I didn't even have to hear a note or anything like that. I just saw the section. He was just like, okay, start whenever you're ready. You get 2 attempts at it, and I like forethought, okay, so this is this section. So I'm thinking to myself, like, I see the song, I see the number, and I have like played this track in my ear so many times that I have it like completely memorized. And so a cappella, I sing like that section as prep to go in for my audition with this guy right here, and he's just like, dude, if you can do that, you're gonna be just fine. And then checks me out. I didn't even have to do my audition.
Exactly. Like we got in like so easily, like, and we were just like,
it was
our choir teacher like made it like so like stressful
Yeah,
and
like
like
this guy was.
terrifying as possible.
I'm like 100% like. It felt like this dude was gonna kill us if we had to do the alternative audition.
Exactly.
And because like the nice thing about our Allstate was it wasn't just it wasn't just cut and dry. You didn't if you didn't make the second audition, you didn't get to be in Allstate. You had to go to a separate audition that was like 5 hours later.
Yeah.
So thankfully, none of our people from our high school had to do that. But we every time we got done and we were heading out to the courtyard to meet with our director, every time somebody came out, all of us were just like on the edge of our seats, just like, did you pass? Did you pass?
Yeah. And all of us passed the first time. It
Exactly.
was awesome.
The funny thing too was one of our guys was so certain that he was not gonna pass the first time.
Yeah.
And then I think he ended up having the best score out of all of us.
Yeah. It was definitely an experience.
Oh yeah, no, and that's the funny thing about that too is that is a freaking teaspoon of that experience in itself. So
yeah, we will definitely like kind of like talk more about like the entire Allstate experience later on.
Yeah. So all of that to say, on our way back, we had it was the same exact group of people that were in the van going from our hometown to Allstate, and then it was the same group coming back.
Yeah, and like halfway through, like we all stopped like for a break
At a Starbucks.
Yeah, and we stopped with a bus, and the people that we were with in the van decided just to either leave with their parents or go with the bus.
Yeah, so it was at this point it was the weekend, and a lot of people, I guess all three of them had family in town that were going to drive them back, and they didn't want to spend all day traveling, which honestly I get because Allstate was exhausting.
Yeah, so we were essentially left to be the only two people left in the van.
Since a lot of people not just from our van but from the bus as well also had family in the break town that we were in, a lot of room opened up on the bus. So the guy that was with us, like the prodigy kid, went onto the bus to hang out with the rest of the people. So it was just us and
our choir teacher,
choir director, and then the other choir director from the three that were in the back of the van. So, and the funny thing too is I remember this so vividly because you and me are just talking about whatever. Like,
I think we were talking about like video games and stuff.
I honestly think we were. And the funniest part about this, I remember this so vividly. Our choir director, like maybe 10 minutes into the drive, like the second half of the drive back, actually turns down the radio so he can hear us better.
Yeah, and we didn't even really like notice very much about it. We were just continuing talking, and it probably was like an hour in like us talking, and he was just like,
"You two should do a podcast."
Yeah.
So that was right then and there. Like, we had so much respect for our choir director that like it wasn't even like the worst thing you could do in choir wasn't not knowing your stuff or embarrassing your stuff or like doing something like to make him angry. The scariest thing for our choir director that you could do was disappoint him. And it was so whenever he said anything that we did was good at any way, shape, or form, we knew we had to pursue that.
Yeah.
So this is the fruit of our efforts about 2 years later after him saying that.
Yeah, so essentially like 2 years later, we pretty much came up with the idea of, hey, let's come up with a company, like let's set up a name called Embers Corner.
Yeah, so the funny thing is how that name originally came about was this was a group chat between us two and our mutual friend, the guy that Sean was best friends with up until, well, really you and me started hanging out.
Yeah.
And it was originally, the funny thing is we originally made this group chat as a call room to play Splatoon 3.
Yeah.
And oh man, it's probably been about a year since either of us has touched that game. Yeah.
No, it hasn't been a year since it came out yet.
No. I'm not saying a year since it came out. I'm saying it's been a year since we've touched it.
Yeah.
And oh man, dude, like, but so that all coming in order to say this group chat was originally made by Sean. However, because we started using this group chat for a lot more than just that call room. We started planning D&D campaigns and meetups for this. We started planning events, like how we were going to spend days, and we started like doing a bunch of stuff. So at this point, I'm just like, you know what? We're doing so much with this group chat. At this point, we should just name it something. So I start just like splurring out different names, and you can ask Sean. I name basically everything we do because
Yeah, you essentially like I was the founder of like this group chat and like all of the things that we did, but like
I named it.
You named Embers Corner,
Yeah,
and so
the funny thing too was that was completely by accident. I did not plan at any way, shape, or form to name it that to have like that name. There was no planning into it. It was something I threw out. They both liked it. We agreed it was going to be a placeholder until we came to a better name, and eventually we were just like, screw it, man, this is good enough.
yeah, and so fast forward till now, like we essentially just started with uploading and streaming like gaming videos, like, and right now like our first ever podcast, like, so we essentially were just like, you know what, we're just gonna have fun and play games, like
have
what
fun.
we
We're going to
do.
talk about stuff that we are passionate about, talk a little bit more insight to our lives because, I mean, heck, we two people that we very, very much respect told us to do this, so we might as well.
Yeah, and like later up growing popularity and like and playing games and talking about what we want to talk about and just all in all just enjoying ourselves.
Yeah,
like,
all in all, man, all we want to do for you guys is we want to provide just a little bit of an escape from reality that you guys
Yeah.
can just be entertained by, and we don't like, we're not doing this to be popular. I want to make that straight out. We're not doing this to be. We've just been told that a lot of people enjoy whenever we talk for an extended amount of time.
Exactly.
And
This is a place for everyone to be welcome. Like, so the kind of like the definition behind Embers Corner and like kind of what I was kind of wanting it to be is like Embers Corner is essentially everyone is an ember. It's a corner where everyone can come together and kind of like just relax.
It's just a corner of the internet where we can hang out and take a breath from and take just
exactly.
take a break from
Everyone's
reality,
welcome,
dude.
and
Yeah.
everyone can just sit back and relax and just enjoy a stream or a video.
Yeah, we're just, all we want to do is make meaningful content that we can be proud of, that you guys enjoy. And it's, so at the end of the day, all we care about is that you guys really are enjoying this stuff. And it's I mean, I guess you can ask any YouTuber or any Twitch streamer the same thing. Like, a lot of them, unfortunately, they do it for popularity, and I mean, no offense against that. If you want to do that, you do you, but that's not what we're about here. Our entire goal is to make a safe space for everybody to just come and hang out and enjoy watching a game or watching to us talk, and that's all we want it to be.
Yeah. And so yeah, that's pretty much everything up to date to this point.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, and like I said, just from like this episode of this podcast alone, we haven't even scratched the surface of even our All-State experience, or the week we took out to Arkansas for that choral convention, or any of our experiences through drama, choir, and orchestra in high school. There are, oh man, just in that category alone, we have so much to talk about. So yeah, this is just a tablespoon of what we can give you guys. So we, like I said, we just hope you enjoy it. And thanks for sticking around, Mr. Viewer, Mr. Mysterious Viewer. And we just we hope that you'll spread the word about us. And invite more people to check out the stream. These podcasts are not just going to be uploaded on YouTube. I'm eventually going to upload them on Spotify, on the podcast app, on wherever you can stream your podcast on. Eventually, I do want to get to that point. So, and that's all stuff we're going to figure out in the future. But for now, it is just going to be up on YouTube.
yeah, and I think that's about as good as this podcast is, and
Exactly.
we're about to.
Yeah, well, that's our story for how we met and how Embers Corner really became a thing. So this all spawned from two people we deeply respected telling us, "Hey, you two should do a podcast."
Yeah. And so thank you everyone for listening, and we definitely will be podcasting more in the future. We will be streaming pretty much like twice or maybe 3 times every week.
Yep. Hoping to eventually get to the point where we're uploading some form of content every day over on YouTube. And we're hoping, at least I don't know about you, Sean, but I want us to have at least one of our uploads be the podcast every week, because we have so much to unpack and we have enough to talk about that we really are not we really need to be just venting it out.
Yeah.
So that's as far as how often it goes, you hear to hear first, folks. We're going to be trying to do this podcast once a week as well, just like our co-op streams and various other things like that. And like I said, eventually we're going to have special guests on here. We're going to have various different topics. Hopefully we'll have a little bit better of an icon screen than rather just our bit notification, which Sean has told me he was going to figure it out later. But yeah, I mean, ultimately that's everything we need to talk about. This will be uploaded to YouTube on a playlist by the same name of the podcast, Campfire, Embers, and but yeah, that's all we really had to say for this first episode here.
Yep. So thank you guys all for watching, and
Or I guess listening.
Yeah, or listening, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Alrighty, take it easy. Have a great day.